Okay, we're live. Good evening, one and all. So this is TFC Open Mic, Season 3, Episode 2. And in the beginning, Kixeye reinvented Siege. There we go. Welcome all. How are we?
Hello.
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 Mike. That's good. Let's look along the panel. Let's do it properly, shall we? So from my right to your left, which is in reverse. Hello, Emery. How you doing, mate? We've got Venom. How you doing, Venom? You all right?
I'm alive.
You're alive.
That's okay.
Okay. Like I say, Terry just said hello. Raptor Roo's in.
Hey.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
All
to
right.
you. Happy birthday, Raptor Roo. Happy birthday to you. There we go. Right, there you go. That's enough stupidity. Rick, hey, buddy.
Good, thanks.
Hey, good. Mike, how's you, mate?
I'm good. Happy birthday, Roo.
There'll be lots of that. There's going to be lots of that. Okay. I'm going to call her Raina. Okay, I'm not going to say Miranda. We're going to call her Raina.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
Good to have you on. First time?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. And it's the excellent Liam99. Go find his base because he's renamed it Liam99 again.
Oh, fuck off!
Some of the 200s.
Fuck's sake, right?
I'm selling the coordinates on eBay.
He just loves PMs, all right?
Fuck off!
He was always
217. You'll find Liam99. Go find him.
I'm in sector. I'll give you a clue. I'm somewhere between sector 1 and sector 3. There you go.
Really?
200s.
And
Fuck
17.
off! You're a bunch of bellends.
Moving on. Imri, how you doing?
Good. Hello, guys.
Oh, your mic's a bit dodgy as well, mate. We'll see if we can clean it up in a second. Okay. And George on the end.
Evening, everybody. Was I not supposed to post Liam's coordinates in chat?
Possibly not, mate. But
If
you've
you're,
got a fresh
if you're
picture.
doing that, then
Let's have a look
George,
in.
I'm prepared for when you speak, George.
All right, there you go.
Oh,
Where's the salt?
he's got the JD.
Oh, wait. He needs some salt too. Should have been tequila.
There's plenty of salt as it is. Don't worry about it. Have you seen the page in the last 48 hours? Imri, go again, mate. Try now.
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working, mate. It's just very
Much
basic,
better.
But that's fine. We can do that. I'll just turn you up a little bit if I can find the settings button.
kind of sounds like he's in a tunnel.
It does sound like he's in a tube. Yeah, not that he is a tube. It just sounds like he's in a tube. Where is it?
Cave, actually.
It's a cave, is it? Imri,
Is
the cave.
Emery the one that goes around stealing everyone's targets, John? Right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Not at
yes,
all.
it is.
Anyway,
I think everyone's camping towers.
yeah, camping at towers. There we go. Right, I'll put your volume up a bit more, mate. You're fine now. So who we got in chat then on the live side? I can see Rick Morrison there. Nick's in there. Interesting. Yeah, I'm surprised Nick didn't want to come on tonight. Maybe he's a little bit too salty. Wayne's in there as well. Obviously, we've got two mods. We've got Ford's in there and Jeff's in there as well. Okay. Jeff the Thread Killer. Okay. Who else have we got in? Lady Cat's in there. Corey's in as well. Well, heck, miracles. I've just seen Jenny Nichols in there as well. She's actually awake. Well, there we go. Right, good, excellent. Rum's in as well, but I don't know if Rum can squeeze in the panel. There's not enough slots. Unlucky, Rum. You got in last night, though, mate, with Heavy, didn't you? So, all's good. Right, shut up, waffling. Let's get on with it. The raid. Let's start along this side then. Venom, what fleet have you got? What did you actually start this thing with? And is it the same as when you started? How's that?
Oh, I've got 5 Buccaneers now. So I've got the flagship blank. Out of necessity, not out of anything else. At the start, the damage was just a joke. And then it became relatively easy, sort of 3 hours in. And then they bumped the damage back up. But with the flagship, it isn't too bad. You can actually auto pretty easily. I've actually seen some builds that have been autoing for free. So, but we'll keep that quiet-ish.
Nobody is autoing for free.
Nobody's autoing. Nothing's been done free. Everything costs a fortune.
Nothing's been done free of charge.
So expensive.
Well, put it this way: it is because you've had to make something to make it cost-worthy. So, yeah. So nothing is free in life, you know. There's no such thing as a free. What did you say? Free lunch. Anyway, okay. So you're doing all right. So you've got the boon built, which is going to help
shell
you.
build. So.
Yeah, but the shells, as long as you can move it around, that's what matters, isn't it? Because it gives you that protection. Or is it aura wide for the whole field, or is it? No, it hasn't. It's got a range, hasn't it?
It's got a range, but the range is pretty large. It's a bit like the Skyfire.
300.
All right, so you can. Oh, well, that's fine then, isn't it? Just drag it around or just leave it in the corner.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people just going around fixing the flagship, and that's it.
Oh, nice.
Saves you a lot.
Oh,
So-
that's decent then.
I
So,
was
so the
doing it-
flagship's a recommendation as far as you're concerned?
Well, yeah. Although I was doing it for 1 coin,
Wow.
which isn't too bad with no charged armor.
And no charge armor at all?
No charged armor.
So that sort of negates some of the build, because if you're going to put charge on your ships, because I know you didn't have it, you're going to get it and then fit it on, because you couldn't do that previous TLC because you didn't have both fleets in the previous raid format.
Yeah.
So that's sort of made things a little bit easier for you in some respects, because what is it? A day and 11 hours per charge, and if it's like 2 charge across each ship, you know, that's pretty on par then to get a blank hull out for the boon almost, isn't it?
I will note it wasn't that good at the start of the raid. Nowhere near. It was something like 14 coin if you tried the auto. So they have made quite an awful lot of changes since the start. To go from 14 to 1.
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, I've definitely seen the damage changes. Definitely.
I have seen, I mean, I'll say, I have seen some alterations as the weekend has progressed.
See, I can't say that I've noticed any alterations, but I don't know if the alterations directly affected Bucky's and not Hydra's at all. Or...
I still see the charge armor disappearing rapidly on the Buckies when I go into an S target.
Oh yeah,
but it does that on the. It's doing that on the Hydras too. Like if you want to do the campaign, then you need to retreat a couple of times just to let the charge refill, same as the Buckies. But
all right,
for A sets and 89s and stuff, you don't.
Cool. Okay, we'll move on. Terry, Haffle, mate, what about you?
Well, I am not real happy, but I have 4 Bucky shells, but they're not near ready to do the raid. I've taken them into a couple of targets, and they don't last as long as my ironclads. So I've been just autoing 60s the entire raid, basically.
Yeah, I mean that sort of mirrors what I mean. Nick Heath's in, Snoopy. He's in the online chat there, but I've sort of like seen a couple of posts. He's in the same situation, like he said. It's very unusual for him not to be in the top, sort of like 50 in the world sort of stuff, because he normally does very well. And he's resorted himself down now to, because obviously one fleet concept from the previous format, to having to ironclad on the level 60s. Which they said they upped the points. I don't know if that's the case.
I've been able to do S sets for over a year. It was the first time. It's been a long time since I had to do 60s. And
it's random, isn't it?
Just sitting there auto them one after the other is kind of boring.
And this is a knock-on effect, isn't it? From not being able to do both of the previous targets in that TLC.
Can I ask you?
Goodies,
Can I ask you what points you've got from doing that? Like, where are you?
Well, I'm sitting at about 50 million, but that's because I hit a 69 and dropped 200 gold on a blitz.
Right.
I could do the 69 for free, but free repair. And that's the other thing I noticed with my ironclads. Every target is between 30 seconds and 2 minutes damage. Free map repair for the fleet. I take Buckies in there, they get killed. And I mean, they're only partial builds. They got about 2-3 guns each. Most of the specials, and they no armor. But
that is very similar, mate, unfortunately, to the previous but one FM targets. When you start taking the newer stuff in and you get one of the older targets, and all of a sudden the Colts and that's were a much longer range, and actually a Punisher was taking far less damage than what the Monoliths were doing, because they gear them slightly different to the mechanic. And I think the 60s have been geared to the Cannoneers / Ironclads, and in the robustness side of it, not range and targeting, but the robustness. The Ironclad is more of a robust ship, because it was always slower and it used to take that flicking blue shot of death from the big mega things in the middle, whereas the Ironclad was speedy, but that's not going to help you in this. So the Ironclad seems to be the go-to ship setup, which is why I think it's one of the deals at the moment that's going on. If people, I think it's too expensive like still, but it's one of the deals to try and get people into the raid, even at the base level. Don't know.
I accidentally, with something funny happened to me earlier today. I accidentally hit an 81, not looking, paying attention, thinking it was a 61. And I went back into my base, and it seems to be taking a long time. I go back out and look, and yeah, I'm in an 81. And they actually made it 3/4 of the way through before they died.
Blimey.
It was amazing. I do have one piece of charged armor on each of them, but I refit with the tokens before the raid. But I was surprised they made it 3/4 of the way through. I couldn't replicate that driving. They were on auto and did that, but
Wow. Well, you're lucky you didn't sit in one of those yellow pools, aren't you? Because they do
Yeah.
take you to random places sometimes. I know somebody else had that. They were talking about it last night on the Hefe show. Cool, excellent. So, well, it's not cool. At the end of the day, you should be up hitting the S targets, but you've been locked out of that through previous spouts, unfortunately. So, yeah, you're gonna have to struggle through and try and get. Do you think you'll get to 50 to get the boon, and then be good for next month?
Yeah, I'm right there now. I was hoping
You
to
are.
get some rad charged armor.
Sorry,
too,
yeah, but
that
you
won't
had to
happen.
blitz to do that, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna be happy with getting the Bucky flagship.
Okay. I mean, yes, it is interesting, I must admit. Good, excellent. Rick, what about you, buddy?
I used four Buccaneers. They're fully loaded. They're ready to go. I have one as a support ship, and I'm done the raid.
Really?
Yeah.
You finished?
Yeah, I finished about 30 minutes ago.
Oh wow, check you out. What did you go for then? What did you?
I got everything. I got the Buck flag. I got the Blood Hydra. I got the tokens. I got the CICs. Everything. About 252 million.
Okay, all right then. And I won't ask you how much, but did you think it was a valid return for your input?
Oh yeah, I cost me 32 coin.
Okay, and clearly using the S target and then all A sets.
Yeah, no, just S targets. Yeah,
but going in and out,
in and out. Oh yeah, in and out. I was about 3 times in and out.
And what sort of seat time do you think for that?
Oh, about 10 hours.
About 10. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It needs to be about something like that. So
yeah.
That's quite a dedication then.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a solid 10 hours of sitting down. Yeah.
Oh, I was sitting. Yeah. I'm getting seat sores. Yeah.
I mean, I'll have my hands up. I went into the 89 straight away, and I blitzed straight through to 70, and then got myself some of the different charges, and then fitted them because I had the tokens, and then I've had a much better time since.
Yeah, I think 32 coin was just. I think I could have done better if I didn't. I was trying to see how far I could stretch it and with the charge and see if I could take a little extra target out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good little game, I must admit. I mean, I was watching a couple of guys in my alliance who are following the same sort of pattern. Some of them have got 3 ships ready with a couple of charge, and some of them have got 2 only. But actually, so long as you can utilize that retreat button at the top and watch the pack event build itself back up again, it's the pack that's doing the damage, isn't it? And it's giving you that chance then to pick apart the target, take it down to sections, and then extrapolate yourself from the target. At the poignant points where you can either nip back in, fix each ship individually, or with luck, fix it on the sea and go straight back to the target again.
Yeah, normally it was take it back in and break it down, break down the fleet, fix them one by one.
Which messed up the crews. I mean, did you go for any crews?
I was mostly using steelheads. I used a demo squad once, but mostly steelheads.
Okay, cool, excellent. So you're done. So okay, that's not bad then, really. Good. Nice to see. Excellent. Mike, how are you, mate?
Pretty good.
And how is things going for you?
Well, I did have 4 Buckies ready to go, but I only had 1 charged on 2 of them.
Okay.
So I did a refit in between and put those 2 on, and a kindly soul showed me how to do the S targets. I've been hitting those, and things have been turning around.
Good.
So it should be successful after all.
Yeah, I mean, I think pitchforks were out first thing Thursday night and that sort of stuff, and there were some mistakes. So we'll talk about the mistakes that they had in a moment. But I do think that we're learning the targets. There are still people up in arms because they are not in a position like Terry sort of stuff where they should have been had they not had to have both fleets in the previous one to get the charge and maybe the stuff for the Hydra to maybe even build one for this time. So there's a definite them and us at the moment, and it's not through ability, which is unfair, I think.
That's exactly the point. I mean, I have a friend that's right next door to me, and he can hardly do anything where he's been able to do success in the previous couple of raids. So I don't think it's the player so much.
No, I don't think so either, because I've like I said, Snoopy's in chat there, and he is down to hitting 60s with his ironclads. So he's using last year's fleet because he just couldn't get the stuff in readiness in time. So frustrating.
No charge.
Okay. But you're sort of like got yourself back to a position where you're getting comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I have all the required items locked up, so
Good.
Right now it's just getting the good stuff. So
Just the
yeah,
stuff to finish off. You're polishing your stones now, and you're
polishing this.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Much
Excellent.
better than the start. Yep. Thanks.
Good. Excellent. Raina, let's have some
Hello.
words from yourself then. Come on then. We'll say how are you getting on? Then you can say how your ally's getting on. Because I mean, for those that don't know, Raina obviously leads one of the largest alliances in the game. But it's also a player as well in her own mind, the same as I am for my little alliance, and same for Robin. So, first from your perspective, though, for you personally, preparation for this raid format, and then obviously how you've done, and then how do you take it from an alliance leader's perspective?
So I was one of those people who had the pitchfork come Thursday night when I took my Buccaneers into a target for the first time. It was definitely not something that I was very happy with. So I sucked it up and I bought one of the token deals so that I could finish my fleet. I think what we were seeing was what kind of everybody'd been bitching about for the last 2 months is that with the lack of FM tokens that we're getting with this new format compared to what we've gotten for prior raid cycles, a lot of us were lacking on having our fleets completed compared to what we've done in the past. So I know there were several in my alliance, in addition to myself, that were probably about a week behind on build time, because historically we've always been able to get the fleet built using FM tokens and other tokens that we've received, throughout the time period to at least have the bulk of a basic build done to use for the first raid cycle. So I think a lot of the frustration that we were feeling on Thursday was we weren't as ready as what we've been in the past because we were missing a lot of those FM tokens that we were used to using to build our fleets. So
Frustrating that FM slot machine. Let's start up and see what you've got for tier 5.
Right. And just the minimum total that you get, the baseline minimum total still considerably less than, the old baseline minimum total. And I think probably the majority of people that I ever talk to on the FM tokens, rarely do they ever get more than, the 3 days in the tier 5 now. It's like a miracle if they get 2 2-day tokens. And I know there's been a couple people that might get the lucky jackpot, and get the 9 days. But I think I've maybe only heard of 2 of those since the whole FM changes went into effect. So I'm not sure that you can really call it, a lottery at that point. I think those odds are worse than the lottery.
Yeah, I must have. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and from my own personal perspective, and I've tried telling my own alliances as well, go for tier 5 is 1+2, and anything else is a bonus. I mean, so it is a lottery, but assume you're just going to get 3 tokens.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the lack of tokens, I think, is why a lot of people were further behind than expected. I know, for myself, that was the reason that I was behind. So I went ahead and I bought one of the token deals that they offered to get the rest of the charged armor on my fleet. I was only missing, to start, I only had 1 charged on each boat. And then the rest, I had 2 D2Rs on my 4 Buccaneers, and then I had an empty armor slot. So they weren't like super far behind, but probably about a week's worth of build time because of how long the charged armors take to get on. So once I got those on, I was doing considerably better. Those people who know me know I'm not the most patient person in the world. So that whole retreating 5 or 6 times to do an elite target is not something that I would tolerate very well.
No, I can understand that. And it isn't, I must admit. And Venom's in the same sort of camp sort of stuff, and he's like, I'm just going to get the boon because I just can't be dealing with it. So that makes sense, if that's what works for you. So from an alliance perspective,
so from an alliance perspective, we have probably 5 or 6 players that are in the same boat as me as far as once we got our full fleet done with charged armor. We're doing a lot of prepping now for the other folks who aren't quite as far along in builds. A lot of people know Pain Train, and I don't think he'll be upset for me for saying this, but he's one of those players right now who's grinding those 60s because he didn't have the build time by the time he finished the fleets that he knew he had to finish from last raid cycle in order to do all the TLCs that he was going to have to do with them this raid cycle to get the Hydra and stuff like that. He's, behind on build time. So he doesn't even have 1 charged armor on all 4 of his Buccaneers. nor does he have all the weapons and stuff on him. So he's really struggling this raid. He's one of the people we're prepping for, and that's, you know, normally not the case by any means. So he's out there, you know, grinding the 60s with a couple of his fleets. I know he posted a video of doing them. So, you know, from an alliance perspective, it's very unusual. The people that we're prepping for aren't our normal people we're prepping for. So.
Yeah, it is interesting, I must admit, and yeah, I know Paint Train very well from old and that sort of stuff, and it is really a surprise, or no, it's just a reality maybe, but to see Paint Train having to do it at that level just because, you know, he was misfortunate and didn't get the opportunity to get the preparation work underway, or the bonus of the lottery of getting the FM tokens and dropping the right ones and that sort of stuff, you know. I disagree with Kixeye's assumption that by now most people having the Huggy shipyard or doing your PvP stuff, that we're all of a sudden we're going to, and I'm going to let Robin expand on this in a minute, all of a sudden we're going to be fine doing the PvE stuff. We're not. There's so much to do and so many refits and so much escalation. There is just no time. And a lot of people still haven't finished off their previous raid format holes yet, which they know they're going to need in later TLCs. So
exactly. It's very frustrating for players. You know, we're seeing, I think, throughout the rest of the game too. I mean, players, you know, going, how much longer do we have to put up with this before we just finally give up and quit? You know, we can't keep taking on all this stuff. We can't get anything done. Nobody's listening to us. So, yeah, I mean, from an alliance leader standpoint, it's very frustrating. Okay. So I will say the one thing that we've posted on our page that's been helpful for those who haven't heard it yet, if you have demo squads, use those with your Buccaneers. The defense percentage that you get is the same as what you will get when you add the flagship to your fleet.
Yeah, I've used 4, I think, and they've worked very, very well, I have to say. The demo, if you've got them, they've worked excellently. But obviously, it's a, you know, tier 3 special, so hard to come by. But if you do happen to have some stacked up, they make a huge difference.
Definitely.
Yeah. I have to say, for the Buccaneers, I even saw somebody out there actually, and I recommended against it, but seeing as the damage comes from splash mostly, you can actually go out and use, obviously, you know, the time reduction special as well, crew as well. And you know, people are, although obviously it's, you know, the damage, as damage goes up, you know, your ship gets better, but the fact is you can fix on the sea if you want to do it that way, and people are finding it much quicker than going back into their dock. So they're doing it that way as well. But another expensive crew, you know, so if you happen to have it, it's fantastic. If you don't have it, Liam, I'll jump past you, mate, because we're going to talk about our experience. Thanks, Rainer. Imri, how are you, mate? How's things?
Oh, well, I've started the raid with 3 Hydras. Now,
oh, right. Hydra's good.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I've managed to put 1 charged armor on 2 of them, and I had 1 with 2. And, well, it's huge difference when it comes down to mistakes and you take those deadly shots. It's like in the elite target, if I take those shots, the ones with 1 charged armor, they sink immediately. The other one can actually survive without a scratch almost. It's ridiculous at that point.
So as the first thing for you, have you, I mean, as your points are collating, are you going and getting, I mean, I would assume that because you've got the Hydras and we couldn't get CIC before, have you gone and spent 5 million and got yourself a Hydra and fitted it? Or have you just gone, I don't have any fit tokens left and I'm not going to coin it, so I'm going to go ahead and get my prizes, then do it in slow time? Which way have you gone?
So I went first for the flagship, of course. And once I cleared that, I went after the tokens. And I also got the CIC modules. Now, I haven't done much about that. Just stored it until the morning. Then I had a look around YouTube, see what everyone is up to. And then I've seen a build. So I decided to copy it and I blew my tokens into it. Mm-hmm. The only problem was at that point that I haven't claimed any of the radioactive armors.
Right.
And I've added the range CIC to 2 of my Hydras. Mm-hmm. And guess what? That's not a good combination like that.
Right. So you definitely need the rad armor as well.
Yeah.
Armor, yeah.
Don't put it on without rad armor. It's magnifying all the radioactive damage that you take. It's crazy.
Okay.
The damage that I used to take in A set targets was like instant repair.
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but if you put the range extender on, I think it drops it like 25% for your protection status as well against radioactive.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. So,
so my damage went up to like instant still, but I had to dock every time, so it just slows down the progress. And if you make some actual mistakes, then you're screwed.
Okay, cool. Thanks, mate. That's a good start. Right, so there you go. That's an average sort of you know look across the. So we've got a bit of everything there, which is nice to hear. But the thing is, the targets that were designed for the ironclads can do. I think definitely if you've got CL3 on as well, because that's a really good special. It protects against radioactive as well as ballistic. You know, people are getting around now to understand the targets and doing reasonably well. Probably a bit of a target power adjustment, I do believe, from Kixeye's side. So they are getting to a reasonable state now on the higher level targets with fleets that have clearly had it to be a little bit of adjustment. But yeah, I think we're settling down. We're starting to see some ideas from people. So it's still not right. Don't get me wrong, it isn't right. And I think, as I said on Hefe's show last night, I still think the power is probably about 25% over what it should be. At the start of the raid, you know, and we all know they sort of like can dial it up as they go along, sort of stuff. I think, but on day one, forget the fact that there was a big mistake and people hit a target and then got gazillion points. That's a sideline thing. But I do think it was overpowered, but hard to justify and also hard to sort of placate because obviously there was the conundrum, which I'm going to go to George first, about the charge armor. George. Just a short 5, if you wouldn't mind, just so. Keep it short.
I mean, the conundrum with the charged armor is that they had changed the armor, did not change the targets, and then we have 2 different things being said by 2 different Kixeye employees that contradict each other, which would mean one of them's lying, which doesn't make any sense. And you know, the change actually is the reason why people had to come in and out of the S target. So, you know, the first target I hit, I was not all that thrilled. I made a video of the second one. So my very second hit was the one where I was going in and out, and it was instant repair for the whole thing, right? But it took 20, 25 minutes. After messing with it a little bit, you know, I got it. Like, I mean, now I'm doing it with the demo squad for like 9 minutes, right? On auto. But that's not the point because I had to actually refit for that. These targets came out and they knew where we would be on the builds. And when we went into the test servers, we saw a certain mechanic working this way, right? And it was because the charged armor was the way it was. It wasn't even 2 days before the raid they changed it, which gives us actually was like what, 12 hours, 14 hours?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It doesn't give the community any time at all to adjust at all. I mean, none, 0, zip. And even if we wanted to, we wouldn't have enough time to add that second charged armor. With the second charged armor, you could do the same thing, except this time you only had to come in and out once. If you used a crew and went in and hit the targets, you went in and out, and it was done. I mean, do you want me to expound? Because there's a couple other things too, like the asset. There is,
but I don't want to go complex there, but I do want to
just the charge,
just the general charge stuff. Yeah,
yeah. The charge changed the way that you have to address the targets.
Absolutely, and that's my key point.
Yeah, and the thing is like everyone had certain expectations because they allowed us to stream those previews or the test previews, and I don't know, that left a very sour taste in my mouth. I'll say this: after the second hit, I did that video, I put it out, and I was so upset. I didn't play for the rest of the day. I walked the hell out. I flipped my top elsewhere, and I got responses and stuff, but I didn't play for the rest of the day. I was pissed.
Well, at the end, I'm going to cover about previews and that sort of stuff specifically. So charge is not interactive and representative of what we saw in the preview, which was a defining moment, I think, just before we went into this raid, where we thought, well, one will do. You know, we're doing okay. But then to find out that, you know what, forget about what we were trying to do in the preview, because I'll cover that. But the representative of how well a single piece of charge armor would work against a target that seemed to be the S target, the A set, that wasn't representative in the game on day one. and a simple statement throwing out is not helpful. They should have, I think, and Ren has copped it there because Ren's in the online chat. I think they should have compensated for that, not just by saying, well, guys, we're going to adjust the power of the targets, because we'll never know whether they did or not. What they should have done is to say, look, we're going to give you all 4 days of build tokens or something. And then that would give you the chance to get another at least two charge armor on, maybe 3 sort of stuff, with a push if you managed to save some of your FM tokens. Because people weren't ready for that, and I don't think that's right. But that's my gut feeling. Okay, thanks, George. Robin, if you wouldn't mind, take us through, because we had some issues, take us through sizing of targets, time sort of like spent in the targets, and particularly what I'm interested in is your feelings on the hitbox problem that we had and how it is now.
Yeah, there were a couple things that were brought up in the multiple previews, and a couple of things that we talked about on the previews, and that was the kind of disconnect between where the turret was and where you actually started firing at it, and what happened if you clicked on said turret. And because the hitboxes were out of whack, if you manually clicked the turret and then just let it pull your fleet, it was basically pulling your fleet well into the range of the fire of some very nasty turrets. So that was brought up, and I know there were some adjustments that they were trying to make. I know that I have seen a lot better graphic and the interaction between the two within the A sets and within the S target for the Buckies. I cannot speak to the Hydra because I don't have that built, but it looks like they did make an attempt with that. So if you're approaching them now, there doesn't seem to be that kind of as big a grey area between where it should be firing and where it was firing. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and Miranda touched on this, and I'm sort of in the same situation where we've got people that have got half a fleet, a full fleet, or 4 hulls with no charged, or 1 charged, so on and so forth, and very unusually seeing people that are normally out prepping that are unable or struggling to get their own raids done. But the one thing that I do like with this raid, especially versus the skirmish raid, is that the size of the targets and the time to kill them for like the A set has significantly reduced. I think last time when I was prepping, it was like 7 minutes per target to go ahead and prep a single A target. And this time, you can run through them pretty quickly. You can do them in, 2 minutes. And so you're able to actually help players get some points to get the charge that they need and those types of things. So that's one thing that I do like about this. The S set, as already stated, for 20 minutes to sit there and do the target hokey pokey and go in and out, it's more efficient for me time-wise to run a bunch of A sets than it is for me to sit there messing around with an S set. And then, funnily enough, you get more points from completing an A set than you do from a single S.
Oh, I'm not even that annoyed me too, because all the people that actually had that charged armor on are the ones that were trying the S targets, not the A targets. So why didn't the S target go up? But that's another story.
Yeah, so that was the thing I was going to say. So, yeah, it's interesting. But first of all, before I do jump in, because I want to grab some info from Liam as well, what do you think about the design of the targets and the visuals and that sort of stuff? Are you still thinking it's the right way? It hasn't induced any more lag or anything. I've not noticed more than I'd expected, and certainly not as like the previous raid format.
No, it's actually interesting because I don't know if people have noticed this. If you follow those little flying things around in the targets, if you get one that passes you and you've completed the turret cluster that you're nearby, you can actually follow that around to where it goes to drop the little emitter. And if you kill the emitter while that flying thing is nearby, it splash kills the flying thing. So you can actually take care of some of those UAV things and kill those off, and almost like the pop-up turrets in the other siege targets, where if there's like a pause between the time that it pops up and it actually spots the ring, so you actually can take care of that. And so I like the graphics, I know, and it was touched on last night on one of the shows, the FA show, I think. The graphics guys are not the ones that set the damage amount. So credit to the graphics guys. I'm enjoying the targets from that perspective. The damage, not so much.
Yeah. I must admit, zoomed in, they look phenomenal. I must admit, the artwork, I think, is fabulous.
I want my next warehouse upgrade to look like one of those silos.
Yeah, they are cool, I have to say. Liam, mate, he's in. He's going to go live. Here he is, look. Oh, so come on, mate. You were a gazillion miles behind coming into this one. You've had a crazy Christmas, that sort of stuff. Tell it from your perspective, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even play the last raid cycle at all for the whole 3 months of it. So I didn't have Buccaneers. I didn't even know what Charge C was, you know. So for me, I was very behind, and I wasn't sure I'd be able to compete at all. But you know, I did invest, so you know, you can call me a filthy coiner all you want, but
Filthy coiner.
Filthy coiner.
Yeah, but you did miss a complete raid cycle. You've missed a complete raid cycle, so you know, it's a delayed investment.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have fangs, I didn't have hunters, I didn't have, up until a week ago, I didn't have any of that, you know. But yeah, I mean, I built some hydras. I played the hydra campaign because I could only get to prize pack 3. I couldn't do the mastery round to get sea armor because of my fleets were a bit backwards. But I got the hydras, I got the special, I got the launcher, and I built some ships, and I gave it a go. And I must say, they weren't the greatest without the CICs and without the charged armors. I was able to do the ballistic. If I put the radiation crew on, that gives you plus 30% rad defense. I could do the 89s for like 1 coin, but I blitzed just enough to get me the CICs, and then the second I applied the CICs, it was like a completely different ballgame.
Light and day, yeah.
Yeah, it was unreal. I mean, and I was really, really happy at the build time. Like, I had a gut feeling that Kixeye were going to really screw us on the build time, and then. But I was wrong, and they're a really nice low build time. So I think I would then went and grabbed the 13-day build tokens on the hydras at the on that you offer just now. Applied CICs and charge armors to every ship, and it's been a free raid ever since. I mean, I'm at about 320 mil right now, I think. And it's,
I mean, so you're at a point now through that investment, so that you're now back at a start state. Would you say? Of where you would like to have been in the first place, had you? I mean, you know, let's not blame Kixeye on this one. You have not been able to play the game. It's as simple as that. You've had the craziest work schedule. So
it's not Kixeye's fault at all. I mean, really, since kind of mid-November, I've not been able to play BP at all. My base is very bad. You know, I don't really have a mega ship worth sailing. So yeah, I mean, I was very, very behind. You know, especially in the PvP and PvE. So. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to see. The thing that in BP is the game is never fun if you're behind. If you're behind, it is the worst game in the world, and it sucks, and you hate it. You know, you really do. But yeah, I mean, I have really enjoyed this raid. I've really enjoyed the hydras, and it's the first raid I think I've enjoyed for about 2 years. I haven't enjoyed a BP raid since. I don't even know. It's definitely not 2016. It was definitely not 2017. I would say it was probably early 2016 was the last raid I enjoyed in BP.
Okay, so I mean, you're in a nice position where your hydras are done. You've got a flagship.
Yeah,
you've got some charge. You've got CICs.
I did do the flagship as well. Yeah.
No, I know, but the thing is, that's where those that have gone. Imri, for example, if he's now going for his flagship and that sort of stuff. When it comes to the next one, we know there's going to be a bit of escalation. I know that, but you're happy with the fleet. You think it represents well in the target. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I think that's why I invested, because at the end of the day, I've spent probably the last 3 raid cycles behind, and it's nice to actually not be behind. For once, I just didn't want to be behind. But, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you know, for the people out there that are having an issue, I'm not saying it's a fantastic raid, and I understand everyone's frustrations completely. You know, just for me, I'm enjoying it. But obviously, I did throw some cash at it. You know? But
that's a Christmas bonus deal.
Yeah, that's a Christmas bonus. But see in this raid, almost everything on offer in this raid, I didn't have. Like the hope and the weapon that goes with that, like the Bucky and the weapons that go with that. I took 20 charged armors. You know, I mean, there was so much on offer, and I didn't have any of it. So it's actually been a great catch-up raid as well.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about it. Thanks, mate. That's perfect. So there are a couple of people that are in the same situation. So if you are a high-level player and you're having then, like Raina said for her lines, you're having to go down a couple of tiers, which is really unusual, and that sort of stuff. it's more about seat time. It's not that it's not doable, but it takes you back to the days of old where you had to spend an awful long time, if you want to, or really rely on your alliance or sector friends to come and really give you that little bit of boost. And the good thing about it being Siege, we have got the exit button. So people are, especially if you've got a nice big alliance or quite a few friends in your sector, and then you can, I mean, I've not seen such a busy sector comms in some time, a helpful set of sector comms. And that's where the community, and that I think is what actually keeps BP alive. It's not the quality of the game. Part of it is, but what brings people back into the game is they miss the people. They miss each other more than ever. It's the camaraderie piece, and people like to keep people in their alliances, that sort of stuff, because they've been friends for so long. Online friends, half the people never even seen each other for real, sort of stuff, But the point is, you build that camaraderie, you get a relationship up and running, and a kinship, and and that's half of what alliances are all about, so it's definitely brought that back in, as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely sort of brought back in. Sector comms is really vivid where I am at the moment, and even my alliance comms, so it's working quite well. But yeah, I mean, yes, I haven't travelled for a while, I must admit, but I do look up and down the world where I am, and I know people that are down in Alpha World who had an interesting start to their raid with the debacle about the points. Been giving 1 billion points at the start is not good, and then having them taken away after you've used a couple of things, and all of a sudden you're into negative values is quite disturbing, I'm sure. Anyway, one thing I was just going to mention myself from my perspective was just the previews. So we had for this raid 2 previews, okay, and both were allowed to be streamed. So the first one was quite interesting, but it was a bit generic and stuff. But the second one specifically, where we were allowed to go and have a look at what we thought was going to be the Buccaneer S target, but it wasn't. It ended up being the Hydra S target, which threw a lot of people, I think, that actually went into there because we weren't expecting to see what we were actually asked to prepare to see, if you know what I mean, sort of stuff. So we were going there with one intention, or I certainly was, and all of a sudden we were given a different sort of arena to go and trial. So that was a bit of a surprise. Now, for whatever reason it was, and bearing in mind the winning of the hull for this raid from the last raid, the Textor raid, was the Bucky, and then we weren't able to go and at least have a look at how difficult that would be. So we were thrown into the Hydra, whether that was on a purpose or not, irrelevant. The point is we couldn't do it, but we only had the A set. So leading on from what George said, and as what I said last night in Hefe Show, the A set is designed, which is how I'd like the S target, a single S target, not 2, to be designed, where both fleets can go in and both fleets can do it reasonably well. Ideally, the skill hull would do it better if you're a good driver, but you would get a slightly more penalised than the auto hull man if he just lets it, has his fully built, completely capable, fully ranked, and can auto it. So you can get around and do it perfectly well with a skill hull, and by investing in that skill hull, which may cost a little bit more and take a bit longer, you should be able to do it for nothing because you've taken the extra time and care to invest in the hull that's cost you a little bit more. But the auto hull just takes its flat amount of damage based on the target, and it should be a mirror image every time within maybe 10 minutes every time you take it in.
Oh, that'd be nice.
You're not controlling it. But that wasn't that was the problem. We've now split down into 2 S targets, where the S target for the Bucky is, part of the fact you can't even take the opposing fleet into the other one because you take it in there and actually it doesn't fire. I mean, that's dangerous for a start. You go towards a turret and the down ships don't fire. So that you shouldn't just be allowed in the target at all. But there we go. But the point is that one works one way and one works differently. So the only crossover mechanic, it stops at, the A set. And then it's a different mechanic again. And that's a bit like the old FM targets as far as I'm concerned. The transition from the FM going to the old 89s to the new type, where you could go in there with Punishers, and now all of a sudden you can't, you've got to use Monoliths. But if you went into the old 89 and you took a Monolith in there, you got slaughtered. It's the same sort of thing, or it was at the start of the raid. And I think they've done some adjustments. But hey. So no, that's my thought anyway.
Well, and me and Rude talked about this a little bit off and on. One of the issues that I'm going to have going forward, probably a lot of a big issue, is that if you have built your Buccaneers to the A set, because we saw the A set in that first preview, right? I like the blog build was built based on that, and that works great if you're going into the A set. If you take it into the S set, it does not perform as well. The S set is balanced differently in such a way that you actually have to refit specials so you can have the optimal build in the S set. So if you take the same build that performs well in the S set, it's not going to perform as well in the A set, which is a problem, I think. And before, it was kind of similar with the Hunter because all those targets were built for the Fangs, and that's why they were so long and all that. But it still kind of performed well-ish, right? This time, there's a great disparity between the two. And I think going forward, especially when they go into the map and everything else, now we have a target that is very, very, very niche, and you're going to be penalized if you have to go into anything else with the Buccaneer.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just think they're overcomplicating things they don't need to. You know, I'm an absolute advocate and a champion for a single S target, which is, as was last year, the start of 2017, right at the very, very start. It's just a single S target, which can be done by both fleets. You know, and I think it's the way forward, and we would make life a lot easier. They'd have less things to design. Yes, they might take a little bit longer designing it, but there's less to design, and we haven't got that stream of avenues. You know, and you could pick a single. You could just pick one freaking fleet we don't need to.
But I think there's a problem in that the autoing hull is very popular. The Hunter was done very, very well, and for its target, it did its job exceptionally well. A lot of players love doing it.
Well, blame GDR. Skyfire is amazing.
You know, the Skyfire started it, and then the Hunter was the actual first. I think that's the first true, like, you could have autoed your entire raid. I mean, I did with the Hunter on its target, and I'm doing the same thing with the Buccaneer. And it helps a lot because with all the points that you need, you can do it while, you know, I'm in the shop and I have
on your mobile here.
Puffin, yeah, I'm on the mobile and I'm doing it on Puffin, and that's how I've done most of the raid. And it's a very, very popular thing. They either have to figure out a way to balance that, because I think what happens is if you have one target and you make that auto hull able to do that in just the single target, it's going to perform better in everything rather than the skill hull. And I'm not sure how you would go about balancing it, but like last raid, they did a good job of having the transition from the S target to the A sets, where the Hunter could actually do that, and it didn't really take that much of a beating because of the very specialized build. In this one, they can't. I mean, to optimize the build and for the S set, you're using layered armor. If you go into the A set with the layered armor, you're going to take a bunch of radiation damage. You need the CL3 in the A set. You know, something's got to give there. And I mean, they can probably adjust the blueprint of the Buccaneer to do that, but then I don't know, you know, if that messes anything else up, because we don't have all those neat little info.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the, if I can, one of the other things that popped up that kind of ties to that whole preview thing that you were talking about, Mark, was the post that was made by GDA and the tax special and the inference that players were supposed to infer from those previews that, you know, the tax special might be an option to negate, you know, some of those fields and so on and so forth. And
the tactical field, it hasn't paid off though, has it? As such,
no. Well, you know, it kind of did cause something. It did cause, because of the discussions about it, that, well, okay, that's great, and a lot of players may have that, but a lot of new players and a lot of players that are coming up don't. So how are they supposed to get that? And so it did magically appear in the raid prize list for that. But the key piece of that is that, you know, those two previews were done relatively close to the raid itself, when people had their build set and, you know, we're on the way and doing their builds. And there was, you know, kind of like no official, you know, communication of that, other than some obscure reference with a video somewhere. And if they're wanting to make those assumptions or expecting players to understand those types of things, they need to bring that kind of stuff up early. And in conjunction with that, there is also an issue in the game with the Zealous and the prevention of the Zealous from firing in the A targets. Now, there was a note that was put at the bottom of the release note stating that the Bucky and the Hydra target were jammed, for want of a better word, from firing in each other's targets. But there was, you know, no official communication on the Zealous. We don't know if it's intentional, not intentional. You know, if it is intentional, it should have been something that should have been explained to the players, because there were folks that were out, you know, refitting Zealouses to use as an anti-ship in an A target, and now they're kind of messed up because they can't even do it.
Yeah. It is interesting. You were talking about using, a mobile app for the things. The autoing anything at the moment is a little bit hicky because you can't just let it go and auto and not even go to target, because sometimes it just gets stuck. Then they just seem to get hooked up on something or other. Someone's got a spooky bit of sound going on in the background. I don't know who that was. Someone's phone there. Is it got a ridiculous? Who is that? Is that you, Liam?
That's the Twilight Zone, isn't it?
It's not me.
I'm scared.
Sounds like someone's getting UFOs invading them.
Yeah. Is that George?
No, it wasn't me. My mic's on mute.
Okay. Anyway,
Not me. I'm on mute.
I actually do want to say something about what Robin brought up with that STS special, though, because
Go on, 'cause I want to do the last 5 minutes to open chat to anything.
yeah, I mean, because the thing is like that was something that he posted up and all that. But if you look at the Buccaneer build, and if you extrapolate from the special that they gave us, right? Because I actually tested Fearless Blitzers, and the critical hits, the higher your critical percentage goes, the better the Buccaneer does in those targets, right? So what special do you give up then? Because to use that critical hit, you have to still keep all those other specials that do the damage, the building damage. So I don't think it was actually designed in to use for the Bucky and in that.
I agree.
In those fields,
I
I think that's a bullshit answer.
Yeah.
So,
however, I do know, like Venom, for example, as soon as you get the boon in there, which is why I still think these targets are dialed too high, by 25 to 30%. Once the boon is in there, that's fine. But because you've got to start the raid, get through the raid, and that's stuff to get the damn thing.
Yep.
So, even if they were going to start on Thursday and start to creep it a little bit, as they always do and never tell us sort of stuff during the first weekend, when people do start to get these things, it's, yeah. Anyway.
I'd like to point out the fact that because we didn't get the test of the Buccaneer target, it feels like it wasn't tested enough by them. Certainly for Alpha World, where I tested the auto on within the first hour, and it was only just about doing it with 4 Buccaneers with no charged armor.
Really?
And a few hours later, it was doing it for 14, and it's dropped down to less now. So it's clear that they've been doing changes to the targets, and it was clear that they didn't test it enough to see what the damage is going to be like. It was an absolute joke at the start of the raid in Alpha World for using Buccaneers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, interesting, I must admit. Right. Okay. Well, I think that's probably enough on the raid so far. Now, I'm just thinking about, okay, so we're in a position now where we've got a bit of a lull in the PvP. And we already know we've got a VXP coming up, and then we've got Bounty 6.0. What do we think? It's open to anybody, this. What do we think's coming in Bounty 6.0? Over to you. I'm definitely interested in Raina's perspective as well. What she's got.
Well, I'm anticipating our first Tier 7 Conqueror hull.
Yeah.
We've had the
is it
last
going
couple
to be
months.
Yang, or are we going to get the massive seesaw?
Oh, I'm going to say seesaw. I think we're going to get something massive. We'll see, though. I think the last couple months have been so focused on base defense. I think, it's kicks, so they can only go a couple months before they really piss everybody off. So I would say that this is going to be, the next fleet that just runs through everybody's base, but who knows?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a monster. One thing I have noticed, and they did promise they were going to make blueprints a bit simpler. I think the last couple of blueprints that have come out have been less fussy, and you haven't needed Brian's, degree in science to go and math and to go and work out what they actually do. A slight complication with the CICs, but just call it a TAC module. You can go right back to the, the TAC modules of old, and it just happens to be called a different name as far as I'm concerned. So interchangeable piece of it, quite as Liam has quite rightly pointed out, nice and quick, and I think they're going to be fun to chop on and off, because don't forget we're going to get up to three more next raid as well. So the fact that they are quite reasonable to take on, almost just a little bit more than overnight, it's not too bad.
Probably, next month's raid is going to be that difficult that you're going to need one of the new ones to do it.
Right.
Well, yeah, funny you should say that. I got a funny thing. When I had to go into this raid, and the first thing I had to do was go and get the tokens and then utilize them in the raid. Had no choice. and I like to save them up normally for stuff after the raid, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah, save up to build the naked hulls for VXP.
And I had to finish off my buckies to actually be able to even get anywhere. So that's why I went down and I blitzed, and I used, I think, about 100 coin or something, maybe a little bit more. And then got to a stage where I could go and get all the tokens and then finish my fleet. And then it was reasonably well. But that was, as Rainer said, that was the pure lack of FM target tokens before. Because I dibbed out and I got nothing better than 2+1. I've not had anything better than 2+1, I think, since it started almost.
Yeah,
I think I've gotten 1 week where I got the 2 and a 2, but that's it.
Yeah, I've always gotten 2 and 1. I actually I blew all my tokens in the raid to refit so I could get that time all the way down on the S target.
Yeah, I've got nothing to take forward. Yeah.
Speaking of tokens, the chests that we get from the FM were in my storage, and my storage was full at the start of the raid because I wanted it that way. Managed the tokens in case I had to do a quick refit or wanted to get some blanks in. Went into my chests looking for them today, and they're gone. So once you put them in your storage, they stay there, right? They don't expire at all, right?
They're
chests
supposed
don't
to
go
stay
away
there.
once you get them, right?
Yeah, you can hold. You're supposed to be able to hold one of each chest, and then open that up, and you can't redeem another chest until you clear it out on the next FM. So you should have had those tokens.
I should, yes. I put in a ticket. I got a feeling they're gonna give me a kite to fly, but yeah, the reason I couldn't open them is because I was still holding tokens in my token inventory. And we were doing some other work, and it caused us to look at chests, and went all the way back and said, well, where'd my gold chests go? So I had the last 2 that had build tokens in them waiting. So just checking. We'll see what the ticket says.
Yeah, that's not good.
But that's a possible loss of maybe 6 days or more builds. Anyway, okay.
No, ticket it no matter what, mate. Definitely.
Oh, tickets in. Yep, tickets in.
Yeah, definitely. Venom, your thoughts on Bounty, mate?
I reckon it's going to be the next tier of Conquer Hull, and more than likely will be walking bases again.
Do you think they're going to continue with the 7 deadlies and make it a tier 7, or do you think they're just going to start something afresh?
I think they've more than likely abandoned that by now.
Because they were quite complex, weren't they?
Yeah, they were very complicated, and to put any of them together was melting your head. So I reckon they've just scrapped that idea. They're just going to go a brand new ship.
I don't think we'd mind if they did, to be honest. Being all honest.
It really doesn't matter, to be perfectly honest. It's going to be overpowered anyway. It never gets tested very well. And the uses that we have for it vary greatly from what Kixeye designed it for, and it does so much better than what they think it will. So, yeah, I think it's going to be another fun bounty until a fix comes out for it, in which case the next bounty after that's going to be utterly painful.
Okay, right. So we've got five minutes or so. So give us we've got an open period now. Has anybody got anything you want to cover that's specifically grinding them at the moment, other than anything to do with the raid or to do with bounty? Anything else that's going on in the game?
I'm actually kind of wondering why the hope is only 2 million points.
Why it is, or
why it is, and with bounty coming up next week.
Probably because the bounty hull will just basically ignore it and drive past it.
It's kind of what I'm expecting.
That's my gut feeling. Sorry, I'm sort of thinking.
I've been telling all the mid-level players and stuff, if they can get it, and they're worried about base defense, I think that might actually be a good investment for 2 million.
Be gone, brush you aside, and I'll just laugh at you as I drive by.
Well, the last 2 hulls that they released are ballistic, and Hope has nothing against ballistic, so.
Yeah, true. I mean, clever players can still work against it, but it is interesting. I have to say, it's I'm intrigued as to see what's going to come run the corner next, and is it just going to be the hull of death, which will absolutely finish everybody off? But it'll be interesting. Anything else anybody's got? Yes, no, we done? Okay, good. Right. So I'll just say it's clearly going to be one of those there. Look, it's a happy birthday to Robin, obviously, as we said.
Sing again. Sing again.
Happy birthday, Robin.
Happy birthday.
From all the Dinos over here, okay, and then across the pond, okay. Happy birthday to our wonderful Rue, okay.
Well, thank
So,
you.
the stuff she does in the background that you guys don't know about is phenomenal. Okay, she has a very inquisitive mind and a business manner, and she has definitely enhanced what we do on the TFC massively since she's been here. So she's an absolute asset for me personally. I'll let George and Brian do their thing and that sort of stuff, you know, and Ren does his thing. He's excellent with his videos and that sort of stuff. But it's Robin that specifically helps me out massively on the background stuff and the sort of like, you know, the administrative piece. So thanks very much, Robin, and happy birthday. Have a wonderful rest of the day, as well. Say.
Well, thank you so very much.
Pleasure as always. Right, I'll get rid of that because it's really naff. Okay, right. If there's nothing else across the panel, then I'll just say thanks to everybody in chat that joined us. We've enjoyed your company as ever. Go and enjoy what's the remaining of the raid. Let's just have them do the Sunday morning thing they sometimes do, or we feel they do, and all of a sudden they go, well, they've all gone to sleep now. Let's crank it up a little bit. So, we'll see. We'll see. Thanks to the panel for coming on. Raina, nice to have you on for the first time. That was great. Thank you very much. And obviously, Terry, nice that your mic's all good, mate, because it's clear and it's good. And George has even managed to change his picture back.
Thank you.
Time. So that's great. So have a good raid and have a good evening. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.